The Maple Leafs drop their fourth in a row as they fall further back from a wild card spot. Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan. And guys, after a really successful Western road trip, it's been tough sledding for the Leafs at home as they have dropped their fourth in a row, 4-1 to Colorado on Sunday afternoon. They're now 5 points back of Boston for that final wild card spot. Lance, we'll start with you. When you look at what has gone wrong for this team the last week, what stands out the most?
Well, you know what? It's been everywhere. It's a lot of the mistakes they were making earlier in the year. About the only consistent thing they're getting is probably the goaltending that has been their strongest suit. But they're it's back to some sloppy breakouts. It's back to slow starts. It's back to a lot of the issues that were going on earlier in the year, and with the exception of Nylander, obviously, it's the same crew. So I think it's a confidence issue, as a lot of them alluded to last evening, and it's not making hay at home. Remember earlier in the year, that was the got them into the hole in the first place, inability to win at home. And when they come out as flat as they have on this homestand, in which they've yet to get a point other than the regulation, the overtime tie against Detroit. That's why they're in the hole they're in now, and it's quite obviously disturbing that the big names have not produced like the way they were earlier on. Austin Matthews took the team on his back for a while. He's slacked off a bit. Changing of the lines hasn't worked, and it's a lot of things going on. And Craig Berube keeps saying, we got to stay at it, and certainly that paid off earlier. He didn't panic early on, but I think he's certainly running out of options, as indeed the schedule shrinks down, as you alluded to. They're falling farther back in the wild card race.
Yeah, it's not good. Even once they get through this next week, I mean, the end of the Olympic break, they come back with 25 games left and 15 of those on the road where they haven't been good either, and 10 at home. And, as easy as it might be to say, oh, there's no excuse for the play on this homestand, maybe that hot run was the aberration. Maybe this is closer to what the Leafs are right now. Yeah, like Lance said, they're missing Nylander. Dakota Joshua is playing well before he got hurt. You take Tanev out of your lineup anytime, you're not going to be able to paper that over too easily. But, maybe it's part of it too is they just don't have the depth that they thought they did. Because there's really, the way that they played here, there's no excuse for it. For me, the big game was the Vegas one. There was nothing there. And for the game that we all thought would be the most emotional of the year, and in a few ways, I guess it was, the Leafs couldn't have been more flat to start. And it was surprising, I think, because, you say what you want about them, but, that they couldn't get up for a game like that was pretty revealing. So as they keep saying too, it's not going to get any easier. They keep saying that each game's like a playoff game. Well, if that was the case, they would have just been swept in the first round of the last four games. So it's hard to say how they turned it around. The confidence comes first, execution, what leads to what. There's certainly, a dearth of it right now. And, it's Berube was saying after the game yesterday, oh, well, they're in the NHL. Come on, let's go. But he knows there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, he played himself, like he said, and it's a collective funk right now, and we'll see where this goes. But quite frankly, it's hard to be optimistic, especially in like tomorrow night against Buffalo. You think, okay, well they're honoring Daryl Sittler 50th anniversary of this 10-point night. Can that juice them a bit? Well, if Marner didn't, I don't think that will. And you're playing a Sabres team that I think has won 18 of 22. Like they're just on fire. So you want to put a good mark on yourselves going into that 4-game trip before the Olympic break, but at least they're going to have to do a lot of things tomorrow night, like Lance kind of said, that they haven't done yet on this 4-game homestand.
I'd quickly add that I don't think the season has been lost yet, but what happens, to Terry's point, in the next 4 games is hugely important because you beat Buffalo in regulation. You certainly you then you're not that far away from third place, but you falling further behind. And as the Leafs said early in the year, we can't count on everybody to lose every night, and that's certainly not happening in the East. The East, for I don't have the stats at my hand. The East seems to be kicking the West's ass every time they play them, and that's caused the Leafs to fall a little bit further behind.
Well, this is a position that the Leafs have not found themselves in very often over the last 10 years, being outside, looking in at a playoff spot at this time of the year. They haven't even missed the playoffs since the 15-16 season, Terry. But if it gets to a point where it doesn't look like things are going to go their way before the trade deadline, is it possible that Brad Treliving pulls the parachute and maybe turns this team into a seller?
Well, yeah, they're going to have to consider it. But my question would be, is he in a bit of a lame duck spot? You know, if the Leafs miss the playoffs, what are the chances that Brad Treliving is back next year as GM? I wouldn't think they'd be necessarily high. You know, maybe 50-50. So does then if they're really that far out of it come March 4, 5, 6, the deadline on the March 6th, is he given, does he have the power, I suppose you want to call it that, to try to make some of these moves? And who are you looking at? Max Domi, the modified no trade clause, perhaps. You know, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who, you know, the season he's been having could really help a team out, I would think, in the Stanley Cup run. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves. You have to deal in reality. I mean, at the Leafs, we're taping this Monday morning. The Boston Bruins play tonight against the Rangers. They win. The Leafs are full 6 points out of either the third place Atlantic or the second wild card, with a bunch of teams to leap past to get up there. And if you ask me, of the teams that are out right now, do you really believe the Leafs would, if you're going to pick a team to make it, do you think the Leafs are going to move in and the Florida Panthers won't? I don't see that. Not a two-time defending Stanley Cup champ, the experience that they have. So, yeah, they're going to, sellers, as bizarre as it seems to be, they might be in that position on March 6th. I don't think you're going and looking at any of the guys who have the no trade or the no moves, the big names, but, like I said, the Domis of the world, Ekman-Larsson's perhaps, some of your UFAs, but you're not going to get much in return. And quite frankly, for me, the Leafs would be a better team going forward if they can re-sign people like Bobby McMahon and Scott Laughton. So we'll have to see, but it's certainly, like we keep saying, they got to make hay here, not only in these games now, before the break, but once they get back toward the end of February and leading into March 6th. Because if not, yeah, I think that option certainly will be on the table for the Maple Leafs.
Well, March 6th is the big day, of course. It's still more than a month away, but you've probably seen a lot of reluctance because the standings are so close of any team really to declare itself buyer or seller outside of the usual suspects. So it will be interesting. I think it's been very hard for the Leafs to add. Certainly, we haven't the big deal to add a defenseman certainly has been handicapped by their own bare cupboard of draft picks and that kind of thing. So certainly you would want to see them add to that if indeed it goes south. We don't know. Excuse me. I guess the interesting thing is where Keith Pelly considers the future of Brad Treliving to be. Is it going to be?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was getting at before. Yeah,
Pelly
walks in.
I don't know if I don't know if Pelly has thought that far ahead. He certainly hoped that some kind of triumvirate between himself, Craig Berube getting a bit more say in things, and Brad Treliving was going to see this team out of its, was going to see this team at least get in the playoffs, and then you make your judgment from there. But depends, who else is up there? Like, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, and who may shake loose over the summer as far as a GM candidate goes.
The thing too that I'd add to that is, as far as adding, you're getting into the territory now of why bother. Like, say the Leafs fall 8 points back, or they're around 8 points back going into the Olympic break and coming out of it. What are you adding? What are you adding to? There's no one or two players that are going to come in and turn the tide for you. And like Lance says, we all know, cupboard's bare. You don't have first round picks. Like, you're really not going to trade Matthew Nyes or Easton Cowan. That would be ridiculous at this point. Let alone Ben Danford, I might add, Brantford Bulldogs. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least, and fascinating everything. But a couple more losses here. Say they win one or two games of these next 5 before the break, you're probably falling further in the standings. And I think it's something that they're going to have to take a long, hard consideration of during the Olympic break, as much as it would pain them to do that. But yeah, I still think that I wouldn't be surprised if they go into some sort of seller mode at some point.
Well, it's going to be an interesting next month and a half here for the Maple Leafs, and a very interesting next week with a game here against Buffalo before heading out on a Western road trip yet again with Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton before a stop down in Florida after the Olympic break. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.